Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels, where my guests tonight are Jimmy Gaspero and Amber Akin. Jimmy, as well as being the host of the Comic Book Yetis, uh, uh,
Cryptid
something
Creator
Cryptic
Corner.
Corner, Cryptic Creator Corner. See, I told you I'd blow it, even reminding myself. And I'm looking at the CCC podcast. I'm like, dude. You got to do that to me. Even when I Google it and go to your website, you don't have it spelled out. I gotta remember an acronym. What are you, a teacher? I'm a teacher. We're
Uh,
always using acronyms and I don't know what half
it's
of them mean.
the first, I think, I think like the first, I don't know, 50 episodes I recorded, I did a bit where I would just complain about the name because Byron came up with the name Yeti and, cryptid, and he liked the alliterative nature of it. And he came up with it. It was his idea to start the podcast. I just came along for the ride. And it was it's just so much to say. It was, Comic Book Yeti's Cryptid Creator Corner. I mean, I must have practiced it a million times until it flowed off the tongue. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, we're
this
well,
is
we're
this is why
we're
I came
over.
up with nice and simple, a
Yeah,
number
22
and a
panels.
word.
It's great. It really is. It's like that's bam, got it. Yeah. But now we're over like 400 episodes of the podcast, so we're stuck. We can't change the name now.
No, I understand. Yeah, every time I think about even changing format, I go, but I record way too much. I don't even like to talk about how many episodes there are now. There shouldn't be this many episodes. I've been at it for less than 5 years, but there are I have more episodes than you. A lot more episodes than you.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do though. I mean, we just do interviews though. Like you also do other stuff. Like you're
That's
covering
true.
other books. I mean, so you're doing a lot of other things as well.
Yeah, we have our weekly, we have our book clubs, we have, I mean, this is like 304 on the interview front. So I
Wow.
don't do, I'm not short on the interviews.
Yeah, no, you're not. You're not short on interviews either.
Yeah, every once in a while. I mean, and Amber, we'll get to you because I love artists, but I don't. I had David Harper on once. I've had John Santos on. I don't get to talk to the podcasters on air that often, so I have to spend a couple of minutes. Like, have you noticed that it's like a good thing, bad thing that like everybody in comics is more than happy to talk to you.
Yeah. I mean, it that is nice about it. Um, but it's also, I feel bad turning some people down.
Yeah.
Um, and and then it's,
Wait a minute,
uh,
you turn people down? I haven't figured out how to do that yet.
yeah, I just like ignore the email and then I'm like very apologetic when I finally get to
I mean,
it.
I guess
But
there is one email that I've pointedly ignored just because, like, aside from the fact that the letter from the publicist looks like he used AI to write it, like, despite the fact that he's like, "Oh, I think I'll be a perfect match. These be perfect for your podcast." I looked at the cover and the name of the publishing company they made for themselves. And I'm like, you have never listened to an episode of 22 Panels if you think you'd be perfect for. Yeah.
oh geez. Yeah, I mean it's been great. Like I really love talking to creators. I love talking to
Oh, it's a
writers and
blast.
artists, but like if you know, it it can snowball in
Yeah,
terms
no,
of
I think
stuff. Like you
I think
can.
I've twice like just accidentally because they all came at once, wound up with like a week with more than 10 episodes getting recorded.
Oh my
It's like
gosh, yeah. That's I try and do that. That's like my guardrail. I try and restrict like when I can record, so it's just like, look, I don't have space to record. I don't have space in the
yeah.
in the schedule. And we do crowdfunding stuff too, and that
Yeah.
doing that dance of I can
Yeah.
I can re I can record it here, and I try and have to get it out during your campaign, and you
Right.
know the only time I think we really though have like said like it wasn't possible because I don't like to turn people down. I like to try and help them
Right.
out and get them on if I can. But sometimes you'll have somebody reach out to you and they'll be like, "Hey, do you have any space on the podcast?" It'll be
Well,
like
and my
March
problem is I'm still reaching out
March
to them a lot of the
1st.
time. And like I'll
Oh,
send four emails and they'll all be interested in the same week. And it's like,
yeah.
okay, I
Oh,
can do this.
I have that too. But you'll have somebody reach out and they'll be like, "Oh, I'll be great for the podcast," and it's March 1st, and it's like, "Oh, okay. When does your Kickstarter start?" They're like, "March 5th." It's like, well, that's going to be tough.
Then I look at it and I'm like, well, so how long is it going to run?
Yeah,
I can be your podcast for that last week.
right, right. We'll get you on during that Kickstarter slump. I do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, I do the same
Yeah.
thing. I like
Yeah.
I try. I mean, I like it. I like talking to people. I
I
like
mean,
trying to help people.
I mean, my like, and this happened to me this week, and I don't think I'm gonna wind up with them all together. But like, what really is a love-hate thing for me is like when multiple friends of mine, like the people who have gone beyond just being guests, they're people that I text with and whatever, suddenly drop all of their Kickstarters at the same time, and it's like, wait a minute. First of all, I have to pay for five Kickstarters now. But now I also have these five people that I want to squeeze in the next.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel your pain. I get it.
But it's
Um,
surreal. It's a blast.
yeah.
That's the I'll be asking you a question near the end about that because I now have two must ask questions. But let's introduce Amber a little bit better. Amber Akin is the artist for this wonderful book that you wrote called Penny and the Yeti. And uh, I never know what to expect when I'm picking up a like children's comic rather than middle grade YA. I guess this leans a little bit towards middle grade, but it's also, paper cuts. And the fact that it's paper cuts makes me have a higher expectation because they're pretty good at curating what they do. Um, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this where it sounds like the compliment that it is. I'm autistic. I'm not always good with words. Makes podcasting perfect for me, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you nailed it.
Um, like I often laugh when I compare like original Grimm to Disney-fied Brothers Grimm because there was a time when our fairy tales, our children's stories were supposed to like teach our kids about stuff and not necessarily easy stuff and not necessarily pleasant stuff. Um, and somewhere along the lines, we as a society, at least in the United States, we've gotten away from that. It's like, oh, you can't let your kids experience things because it will cause them something. I mean, I remember I was the young parent on the playground, and the one that was in favor of allowing the kids to have risk, to do risk-taking behavior. So like a conversation that I'd have altogether too often with that mom that was 20 years older than me going, why the hell are you letting your kid swing around? That's not, they're going to hurt themselves. Like I turn to them and I go, do you want your kids to learn about risks for the first time when they're behind the wheel of a car? Or is it maybe better to skin a knee from time to time? So, what I love about this book is it's painful at times. I mean, like, really painful at times. Like, I had to set it down and pick it up again multiple times. Overall, it's still funny, it's still heartwarming, it's not at all inappropriate for the age group that it's going to, but it's not like everything is perfect when you're 4.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I thank you. I appreciate you, saying that. That's something we worked hard for to make the family come across as authentic. And Amber and I have talked many times in the creation of this that we think kids are more perceptible than people give them credit for. We think kids are more intuitive than people give them credit for. We think kids should have a little bit more agency in some things than people give them credit for or allow them to have. Yeah, my I have two kids. There's a real life Penny who is my youngest
right,
daughter, and I mean my journey as a parent, like I definitely there were times where I remember how I grew up, and then you do have a desire to like not want your kids to be hurt like at all. And then I remember conversations I would have with my wife, and she's like, You you got to let them be kids." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know.
yeah,
I know." She goes, "What were you like as a kid?" And I'm like, "Oh, a monster." Like my mom
right.
tells like I I used to get away. I grew up Catholic. My mom would tell stories that I used to like pull away from her in church and like find another kid in another pew and just hit him. Like I was just a disaster. I, um, got hurt all the time. My little brother, my younger brother Bobby was the same way. And like, so there is as a thing as a parent, like you do have a desire to try and protect your kids. And then, I think like, oh, well then am I doing my kids, a disservice by doing that? And you have to let your kids, figure things out on their own sometimes. Like, yeah, you don't want them engaging in behavior that's too risky, but yeah, they do have to figure out what their boundaries are. They do have to figure out their own comfort level without me hovering over them like a true to life helicopter parent.
Yeah,
But
no.
all that to say though, we wanted the family to feel authentic. We wanted it to feel sometimes uncomfortable, but we didn't want it to be, too scary for kids. But we wanted there to be, we wanted it to feel like a real family.
Right. And like I mean the most common things to work for in terms of more representation is minority groups and whatnot. But I remember as a kid that like I appreciated that the one thing that was true about Disney movies, even if they didn't like play it as much, is that like how many of them had that nice two-parent household that everything worked the way it was supposed to. For that matter, Lilo and Stitch came out when my kids were young, and I love the fact that you had like the older sister raising, they didn't get
Yeah.
into the whole sad part, but like you had a very non-traditional family. Because that like when you've got a media atmosphere. I grew up in Wheaton, Illinois, the Bible Belt of the Midwest. So if there was like any place that like lots of your friends had both of their parents and supposedly loved each other, and I mean it was weird when my parents got divorced. Um, I had like maybe two other friends that had um so like seeing that. I mean, and these parents don't get divorced, or at least we don't know. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, I'll try not to ruin much, but like you leave an open ending. You don't wrap it up and
Yeah.
everything's better. Like you have this story built around the trauma that parents can completely accidentally inflict on their kids just because life is stressful and
Yeah.
parents don't suddenly stop being human when they have children. I mean,
Yeah.
this is one
Yeah,
of the,
no, I
you
mean
know,
you nailed it. I mean that's it. That's the
I
book.
teach high school. You like, and one of the things I'll tell my students on a regular basis when they're frustrated about this or that is like, your mom's human too.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Did she
but the
have a
whole
bad day at work?
no, I mean kids, teenagers, I think, forget that.
Yeah.
Mom and dad are human too. It's one of those things I think you
It's
realize
not even that
also
they
like when you
forget
get
it.
older.
They're only starting to learn it.
Hmm.
Yeah. You know, I remember the older I get and looking back and especially thinking about how old I was when I reached like at a certain like my parents' age at a certain time, like and
Hmm.
just thinking like, oh, like there's still a lot I don't know. And like I remember
Yeah.
look my thinking about how old I was when my parents had reached that age. Yeah. I mean, but you nailed it. Like that's the book. That's what we tried to do. I'm glad,
No, you
felt that
absolutely
way and
nailed it.
picked up
And
on
I
all of
give
that.
I love paper cuts for being willing to, I mean, because like that was what went through my head for the first half of this book is like, this is so amazing. I can't believe that it's getting published. And then I went, oh yeah, it's paper cuts. Paper cuts actually does good stuff.
Yeah, I really liked Paper Cuts has been great. I mean, Paper Cuts has been great to us and yeah, that's been the great thing that we were able to kind of tell that story and I mean I couldn't be happier because it's all wrapped up also in, you know, Amber's art has been like tremendous. Like
Perfect for the
this has just
book.
been a dream collaboration from the design of the characters and the Yeti and some of the layouts. It's been incredible to work with Amber and put this together.
Well, I mean, I've been gushing and talking way too much. I have that problem some days. So I'm gonna try to kick it towards you guys for a second, and at first tell me the genesis of the story, but then get into like how did the two of you pair up, and how did this story go from? I mean, obviously it's named after your daughter, so I'm assuming that Amber didn't come to you and say, "Hey, Jimmy, I've got this story
Yeah,
called Penny and the
yeah,
Yeti. You want to write it for me?"
yeah. Well,
So talk about how it went from this idea that you had to getting together with Amber, and then how it morphed. Because I mean, you talk to creators
yeah.
all the time. You know that like one of the beauties of comics is that it is a true collaborative process. Like what you imagined and what you started to get back were almost certainly different in the best possible of ways.
I
I
mean,
assume.
yes, no, absolutely. Everything I thought like what the book could be when the pages started coming in, 1 billion times better than like anything I could have come up with. But yeah, I have two kids, Charlotte and Penny, and this started just because I was putting Penny to bed, and I think it's real funny when you talk to kids like they are adults. So as I was putting her to bed, I was just like, "So you got any big plans for the summer?" And she's like, she was 5 at the time. This was in 22. And she was 5 and she's like, "No? Do you?" And I'm like, "No, I work. I gotta work. Gotta go to work. I don't have a summer like you do." And she said, are you going to write a story? Because they knew that I was trying to like write comics and they knew that I did stuff for Comic Book Yeti. And I'm like, sure, I'll write a story. What should it be about? And she goes, what should be about a Yeti? And I said, well, if there's a Yeti in it, we also have to have Penny. So she loves the diner near us, the Brandywine Diner. We came up with this idea that Penny and the Yeti go to a diner and part of it is in the book. Yeti gets upset, kind of stomps and cracks the diner, has to go outside, and Penny goes out to talk to Yeti. And it's about, getting upset, having big feelings, and maybe finding a better way to respond to it. And we called it the Yeti and the Big Stomp. And it was just a 4-page short. And I the first thing I ever had published was through Lifeline Comics, and I was paired with an artist, Beck Kubrick. And I reached out to Beck because I thought Beck's style would be good for Yeti and the Big Stomp. And Beck was busy, but Beck gave me the names and like of three individuals that Beck knew and to look up their portfolios. And I think the first one I clicked on was Amber's. And as soon as I saw Amber's portfolio, I don't even think I looked at the other two. I was just like, oh, this is it. This is going to be great for Yeti and the Big Stomp. So I emailed Amber and Amber, do you want to pick up our origin story from there?
Yeah, sure. So one day there's an email in my inbox. It had been a while since I'd drawn comics. It was still something I wanted to do, but I'd been burnt out for a hot minute. I was a
Burnt
teaching
out
aide.
because it's hard. I mean, I get the teaching aid,
Oh
or
yeah.
because, as I remind my listeners on a regular basis, there's no money in it. Give them
That's
your
also
money.
true. I had gone to art school and worked
Patreon, Substack, any way you can.
the good stuff. Yeah, post art school, I worked very hard for 4 years building my skills and my portfolio, and then the pandemic happened halfway through college, and it wasn't the best time to be like a young adult entering the workforce, but I was still,
That was when my daughter had her college graduation on Zoom.
yep,
So I know all about that and being the time
it
to
wasn't great. I could have picked a better time to be 21. Next time around, I'll make better choices. Um, But yeah, I had this email in my inbox from Jimmy. I knew back through Twitter. We were social media mutuals. And I read Jimmy's proposal. That was like a sweet 4-page comic co-written by his daughter. It had a sweet Yeti in it. It was quirky. It had personality. It was truly like the exact sort of thing I wanted to be trying. So it was like serendipitous for me. I was like, yes, yes, yes. Please let me draw this. I'm happy to do this. Let's make this happen. So I drew those 4 pages, sent them back to Jimmy, and then I thought that was that. That would be the last I saw of Yeti until it wasn't.
Yeah. So then that was middle of 2022, when Penny and I first came up with like the idea for the 4 pages. And yeah, I guess I, I don't know exactly when we finished, when Amber like finished the comic, but I had shown Penny and you put it out on like social media just as, oh, look at this. Here's just like a little short 4 page comic. And yeah, then I guess the beginning of 24, when Mad Cave had like they have their open submission portal, and I just really wanted to pitch something. I just wanted to kind of move, like take the next step. I had been published in a few anthologies, but just a couple. And I thought, well, what could I do with this 4 page short? And I came up with the idea, like a story I could build around a young girl and a Yeti. And I thought, oh, well, let's build this family around it. Let's put a family who's kind of in a bit of a crisis with these parents, and kind of started to build out those elements. And then I reached back out to Amber and I said, hey, I'm just thinking about pitching this. I don't know if anything will come of it, but I'm going to use the 4 pages we did, and here's the outline. And she said, sure, yeah, let's just see what happens. Yeah. And now it's 2 years later and the book's about to come out.
Yeah, that all sounds about right. I mean, in some ways, that's fast.
I, you know what? It feels to me. I mean, it probably doesn't feel fast to Amber because she had to draw and color all 116 pages. Um, but it does kind of feel fast. Like
Uh,
I don't know. I can't believe we're here on the cusp of the book coming out, to be honest with you.
I mean, like even for prose, though, it is sometimes. We were just talking to Alex DeCampi about reversal, and like she'd been kicking around and writing that for a decade before she had somebody that was willing to pay to have somebody draw it.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, because that's how things roll sometimes, is like,
Yeah.
I mean, how many rising star rock bands do you discover have actually been playing the bar scene for 15 years? They're not a newcomer. They finally got to quit the job at Walmart that they did between tours.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I mean, for that matter, I like one of the you guys are. I assume that Jimmy, at least. I mean, I found that artists don't manage to read as many comics, so I hope that you don't take it poorly, Amber. If I make the assumption that Jimmy's read something and you may or may not have. Have either of you read Nate Powell's last book, his punk rock? Um,
No, I don't think I have.
yeah, but oh, it's so good. But like um it's from his like actual, or it's fictionalized from Fall Through is the name of it. Fictionalized from his actual punk rock days. And one of the things that made me laugh, and I'm like, this is the difference between comic book artists and struggling musicians, is like they got a tour. So they literally had to quit their jobs so they could go on tour and hope that they could come back and get their minimum wage jobs back or some other minimum wage job. Whereas comic book people just make another pot of coffee and they work the day job and then draw until midnight.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
write I write on the weekends because usually by the time I get
yep.
home from work I'm just like I'm gonna fall asleep, have just like a because I like to write in my notebook, just have like a spiral, the metal spiral design down my face from where I fell asleep
Right.
on the book.
Okay. I mean, I know writers that like they're not proud of it, but they do like 80% of their writing on the phone because their phone can go with them to little league games. Their phone can go with them to this, that, and the other thing.
Uh, yeah, I can't do that. I can't man I just can't get used to typing that much on the phone. But I remember I interviewed the writer and artist that did the graphic novel Just Roll With It, which I really loved. And about a young girl who's dealing with like OCD, and it's a fantastic story, fantastic graphic novel. But the writer of it wrote like over 200 pages, and he wrote the whole thing on his phone. And I was just like,
Wow.
I don't know like how you did that. Like, can we start like a fund to get you at least at least like an iPad?
That's amazing. I
But
love that book.
oh yeah, me too. I love it.
I
I
only
love it.
vaguely know it, but it just went on my list.
Yeah, it's so good. They did a follow-up too, which I'm going to forget the name of. I
So
think it has swimming in the
Veronica
title. Agarwal,
Agarwal
yeah.
and Lee Durfee Lavoie
Yeah, Lee wrote it on his phone.
on his
Um
phone.
Yeah, but it's a fantastic graphic novel. I mean, especially for young kids dealing with any type of OCD or anxiety issues, even kids just starting a new school, starting the sixth grade. Beautiful graphic novel.
Follow up is Sink or Swim.
Sink or swim. Yeah, that's really good too. So
See,
just
that's one of the few things that I do well in this whole podcast thing. I learned that the internet can tell me things.
uh,
Of course, sometimes it leads to dead spaces. I look things up. But thank you, Jimmy. You kept talking while I looked things up. That's the way it's supposed to work. If you ever want to
you're
co-host 22 panels, you're welcome.
all right. I may take you up on that.
Um, Amber, what was your favorite thing about the script? What did you
Um,
what did you when you got this story? I mean, you already knew the characters a little bit, but like to go from a 4 page to something bigger, and it sounds like he brought you in before it was a full script, but it was certainly bigger by the time. And like what attracted you? What made you go, "Oh yeah, we're doing this."
yeah, so I mean, I was already on board because there was a Yeti in it, but beside
Okay.
that, I believe that, children, like we talked about earlier, they can handle difficult topics. There are children whose reality is like far more difficult than what some of the characters in Penny and the Yeti even go through. And I believe books are so valuable to sort of navigate these difficult conversations and, see themselves in the world, feel less alone, feel represented, or even give them the opportunity to empathize maybe with someone else's situation that they had no idea about before. Um, so I was really happy to work on a book that had a lot of heart, that, has a purpose. And talks about complicated things and situations that I hadn't really read many children's books that touched on. And I was really excited to be a part of it. I felt really lucky that I drew those original 4 pages.
Yeah. Um, how did you guys work? So she was on board as soon as you were pitching. Did you start scripting? At what point did you start scripting? Did you script the whole thing before you sent it to her? Or were you sending it to her in parts? Please tell me you didn't make her draw and redraw things because you edited after you'd sent her the pages, because
No.
you should know that it takes the artist much longer than it takes the
Yeah.
writers.
Yeah. So a couple of things. I I I like to think that I'm not a pessimist, that I'm a realist. I'm a practical person. As an attorney, I think that I approach my job as, I do plaintiff's work, and I feel like approach my job as a very practical person. I say that though because I was convinced, even after Paper Cuts got in touch, that like there's a great chance that this is just not going to happen. And I didn't do anything until like we had several conversations, and I really didn't do anything until we it was agreed, like contracts were signed, like we're definitely doing the book.
That
Um
makes sense.
and so once we did
I
that,
mean, particularly
I
as an
was
attorney,
like,
you know that like none of it none of it counts until
yeah, yeah. I that, that too.
the only
So
thing
it
you can do is work your way out of the handshake agreement,
yeah,
not
work
you
your
could
way into
write it
one.
and they could read it and go, "Oh yeah, we're not doing this
Right.
anymore."
So once contract was signed and I'm like, oh, I guess we're definitely doing this. Um, I mean, I I told the our editor Stephanie Brooks, our first editor on it. We had two editors, Stephanie Brooks and then Teddy Leo. That Stephanie was like, oh, as soon as you get some of the script, start sending me pages. And I was like, yeah, I don't have that yet. But I said, looking at the timetable of how long we thought we would have to make the book, when we would fit on their schedule for release, I said, give me 3 months. And I took 3 months and I wrote the whole first draft of the whole book. And
Okay.
I sent it to Amber, I sent it to Stephanie, and then we started working on it in sections. And then once, because that's how I kind of thought of the book, 5 sections, like 5 single issues, that I thought there would be like a natural break there, and so that's kind of how I wrote it. And we did it in like a shared Google Doc, so like Amber could see the whole script, Amber could comment on it, and then Stephanie would review it, and we'd go in and edit it. And once we locked a section of the script, that was it. We locked it. Section one's locked. It goes to Amber, and Amber starts working on it. And so then we eventually got the whole script locked, and then it was just Amber's turn to draw and color it, which,
Yep.
that's a lot.
That was the
Yeah,
next 35 years.
Yeah.
it's what it felt like.
Like it's like that scene in Interstellar where they come back after they're near the black hole and the guy left on the ship is like 30 years older.
Yep.
But no, I thought Amber worked really fast. Like I was like shocked at how quickly some of the pages started coming in. Um, so it really I was surprised. And it was just once there's a couple pages in particular that I thought like I think there were notes in the script that were just like, Amber, I'm thinking about this. Uh, what do you think? Does that sound good? And I think like that was the double page library spread. I think I was just like, I really like libraries. Can we maybe have them like do a DeLuca effect around the library? I don't know. Is that too much? Is that don't yell at me if it's too much. And then and then
I
Am
did want to cry when I first read it.
but
Crying
Amber
libraries
probably
is tough.
delivered like the my two favorite pages. That library spread is like my favorite.
Ended up being one of my favorites too. Actually, it totally is my favorite.
Well,
But
I mean, I know, like, I think it was Ted Brandon Rothstein I was talking to that talked about how, like, I think what Ted said was, I'm not going to look back on my life and go, geez, I wish I'd spent less time on that page.
Yep.
But I am going to look back and go, man, that's awesome. The
yeah.
lost sleep only happens once.
I would do it all over again in a heartbeat.
Right. Right. Now, like treads on Batman's boots, that was probably a little much. I think Jim Lee learned that one the hard way. But um, what as you were reading the script, what was there any scene that like jumped out at you as, oh wow, that's so cool. I'm I can't wait to draw this. I can't wait to bring this to life.
There were definitely a few. A lot of them were towards the end of the book. The library scene was definitely one where when I first read the script, I was like, oh God, I hope I can pull that off. Like 80 pages into this book, I better be a better cartoonist than I am now. And then I had a lot of fun drawing it. I was very proud of the way it turned out. There was another similar scene towards the end of the book that takes place in like a busy kitchen, that I was also terrified to draw, but also really excited because I knew it would be the sort of challenge that really paid off in the end. And that page also ended up being one of my favorites. And then I was waiting the whole book to get to draw the scene where they play pretend and they go to a magical castle, spoiler alert. And I had the time of my life drawing fairies and unicorns and other magical creatures and rainbows, to really sell everyone on the book. There are magical creatures and rainbows.
I mean, isn't that what we all look for in children's books?
It's what I look for.
I mean, that's how you're guaranteed to have your kids stay with you. Is say, but there's a unicorn coming up or a dinosaur. Dinosaurs also will keep
Mm.
your kids staying with you. Um, it's harder to do um, really great non-gruesome things with dinosaurs, though. It
We'll
says the
find a
guy
way.
who's says the guy whose 5-year-old rooted for the dinosaurs while watching Jurassic Park with his grandfather.
I like that's my kind of kid.
Yeah, no, I think he was 6. This story comes up all the time, so my apologies to the listeners who have heard this many times, but you guys, I assume, don't listen to all the 22 panels episodes. If you do, thank you very much. But um, yeah, no, I think he was somewhere between 4 and 6 when he saw the Matthew McConaughey, or not Matthew Broderick Godzilla for the first time. And
Okay.
at the end of that Godzilla's, there's that scene in Madison Square Garden where all the Godzilla eggs hatching.
Yeah.
and they're like trying to kill them as they come out or destroy the eggs before they hatch, that sort of thing. And my kid is screaming at the TV, "You don't kill Godzilla. Godzilla eats you."
True that.
I'm like, wait a minute, you want Godzilla to eat? He's like, yeah, Dad, it's the circle of life.
Oh
Wise
my gosh.
words, truly.
Yeah. Like he has that like on a t-shirt somewhere, right? You had a t-shirt made
It's
with
like,
that on
okay,
it.
not yet, but my wife screen prints, so that might have to be his next
I
father.
mean,
I mean,
you
I
know
have grandkids now, so that might have to be the Father's Day gift for him.
that I mean
Is
that would be great.
is the Godzilla eating somebody and just the circle of life?
Yeah. Oh, you don't kill Godzilla. Godzilla eats you.
Eats you.
Yep. That's fantastic. I
And
love
again,
that.
he was like literally he got up off the couch, ran up to the TV, and was screaming.
Kids are great.
And I'm sitting there going, like, on one side, like, I'm all for not using automatic weapons to kill things. So, like, great job. On the other hand, like, you're rooting against the people. Do I need to worry about something here?
It is a little super villainy, rooting against
Well,
humanity.
and you know,
But
he went on to be a Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader guy, and a
oh, okay.
Joker guy, and
Sensing a
like
pattern.
it
Yeah.
wasn't until
Yeah.
he had his own kids that he started to understand the value of like the good guys.
Oh man. I love that.
Also, that's when I became smart again. Just
Oh,
so, I mean, Jimmy, because you're how old are your kids?
8 and 13.
Okay, so one of them thinks you're dumb, and the other one's almost
Yeah.
there. Right.
The
So
13-year-old Charlotte who's 13. Yeah.
yeah, you're dumb. You don't know anything.
Nothing at all.
And
Nope.
you won't for at least 6 or 7 more years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I'm
what
not
will
looking
make you
forward to it.
what will make you smart again
Yes.
in a heartbeat is when she has her own kids. I do not recommend having her do that as quickly as my son did.
Oh, really?
I got smart way younger than I wanted to get smart again. But I did. I got smart again. And then he became a better parent than me way faster than I did too. So like every once in a while it turns out that they did learn all of the lessons, even if they also did it by making all of the mistakes sooner.
Yeah. I mean, that's
This
a
is actually
familiar
another reason
pattern.
why not being the helicopter, I mean, just full circle back to Penny and the Yeti. This is another reason
Yeah.
why not being the helicopter parent is like, because like uh, there will be a time when they decide that you're dumb. So if their only reason for not doing all sorts of things that are bad for them is because you told them not to, that's going to be problematic.
Yeah. I mean, you do want the kids to grow up and have you know, their own sense of what their limits are and right and wrong, and not just because mom or dad stood over me and told me not to do it.
And or scared the crap out of me if I did.
Yeah.
Because that I mean the educator in me reminds myself like every time I hear somebody, well, you got to make them like, how does that work again? Even if I manage to make them for like the time that they're in front of my eyes without somehow breaking any laws, like the second they're not in front of my eyes, they will now be guaranteed to do this thing that you want me to make them not do. Um, which is one of the beauties of fiction. You get to experience things without experiencing them.
Yeah.
Um, it's a real beauty for fiction that they're willing to pick up on their own. Because God, do kids have radars for, oh, you're trying to teach me this lesson? Which is why, like, the best teaching of Catcher in the Rye that I ever see are the ones that just talk about the political lessons and let them learn the lessons about being a teenager on their own. Make them think that it's about something else because it is about some of that stuff too. But like, as soon as you start telling them that they're supposed to learn anything from Holden Caulfield, they don't think he's cool anymore. They don't want to learn from him. This book is boring. But yeah, no, this is the like Penny and the Yeti is the type of book that I could totally see. I mean, I know my grandkids are getting a copy because
Well, thank you.
well, I mean, it's the book that they'll pick up and read on their own.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll
I,
let
that
dad read it to them, they'll let granddaddy read it to them, but they'll also pick it up and want to read it on their own. Though if there's a sequel, my grandson is really into tornadoes. So if you wind up doing a sequel, if you could work a tornado in, that would be great.
Okay. All right. I
Noted.
we I think we could do that. So if there's a sequel, we got to work in a tornado. So all right.
Never,
All right.
never drawn one before. I guess I'll put that on my list
Well,
of.
he could teach you. At my daughter's wedding, he had a notebook and he's 6 and he drew like 20 pages of tornadoes and wrote the facts that he had memorized about them on each page.
Oh
Kids
man.
are such fantastic artists. I constantly find myself humbled by the cartooning abilities of like
Yeah,
eight-year-olds. They're
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Al-
yeah.
Also, I love when kids like focus or fixate on a particular thing. My best friend,
Yes.
my best friend Cass and his wife Jill, um, their son Johnny, who is Johnny's like 17 now, but when Johnny was little, he got like, and I mean little, like maybe 3 or 4, like he could talk and all that. But I don't think he was even in school yet and was like hyper fixated on volcanoes. And I mean,
Mhm.
like every time you came over and came in the house, it was like, hey, Jimmy, do you have like 5 minutes? So Johnny can talk to you about tornadoes. It was like it was almost like, you know, one of those religions that like go door to door to talk to you. It's like, hi, sir, do
Yeah,
you have 5 minutes that I can tell you about my Lord and Savior Mount Vesuvius?
right, right.
And Johnny would just sit you down and he would tell you all the volcano
Now,
facts
now,
that he
now
knows.
this is very common among autistics. Um, and like I'm autistic. My grandson's been also diagnosed autistic. My son hasn't been tested, but would probably be diagnosed as autistic. So, it runs in the family. So, like, I mean, uh, only if your friends are ever wondering why, oh, why can't he handle this? Like, because the single hardest thing about particularly the type of autistic that get hyper fixated on learning tons of facts is everybody's like, oh, they're so smart. And then when we fail at something, it's like, why aren't you putting in the effort? And it's like, it has nothing to do with effort. It has everything to do with the room was too loud or too bright or
Oh yeah. Yeah.
or as soon as you started telling me that I was being lazy, I started plotting your demise and I couldn't let go. And that prevented me from doing the math. I was doing math. It had to do with like some sort of Rube Goldberg type device. I'm sorry. It's Friday. This is
No,
this is where autistic teachers' brains are on Friday afternoon.
I feel you.
hey, yeah, yeah. Look, we'll go with you with every conversation. I mean, as I think growing up and especially being a parent now and all the other the multitudes of parents and kids that I know, it's just the facts of being around, every type of abled individual. And yeah, the
Well, and
hyperfixation though is
oh,
something that like
it's
when the kids do it is just
it's
wild.
it's so wonderful. I love
Oh yeah.
hyperfixation. I love hyperfixation even in my old age. I mean, this podcast wouldn't exist without hyperfixation, and I bring my hyperfixations together, when I have like my baseball roundtables, or I shot a major. It was announced this week that a member of my favorite rock and roll band has a comic coming out at the end of the year from Z2, and I'm like, now I have an excuse to send out a press request to somebody that will almost certainly not read it, but I have to. um, but I'm rambling, and we're not talking enough about Penny the Yeti, though I think we've hit on it enough that people will read it without like spoiling it. So I don't necessarily need to go unless you guys want to say more things about it. Though I think I'm going to have to come up with an excuse to pair this with a couple of other books, and I don't know which other books it's like this is a book that deserves that spoilery conversation at some point. Not before it comes out, but like expect to hear from me sometime down the road to say, "Hey, you want to come like talk about the psychology?" But I don't know. I mean, again, I don't expect you to have listened to most of the episodes. There's a group in my area called psychocomicology, where it's psychiatrists that actually use comics in their practice, and I push them from using mostly superhero comics to using stuff like this too. Um, so
Oh,
I
that's awesome.
know that there will be a psychocomicology talk about this book at some point.
I
I can
I would
just I
love
can feel
I
it.
I would love to come back. I would love to come back, and once it's out, I'll get in the weeds with you.
Right,
I'll
right.
my I mean I'm a lawyer, but my bachelor's degree is in psychology, so
Oh, nice.
I'll do my best to hang
Have
with
you noticed that
everybody else.
like cool lawyers don't want to just be lawyers? You're the second lawyer I've had on recently who's writing a comic with mental health type stuff embedded in it. Two of my favorite baseball writers are lapsed lawyers,
Yeah,
both from
we were
Columbus, Ohio, ironically.
really.
Yeah.
I think officially they're called recovering attorneys is like the term that I've heard.
Uh,
Um,
one of them, I think that yeah, for the two of them, one of them, I think recovering attorneys hits it pretty well, and the other
yeah,
one, it feels more like the lapsed Catholic, like he
Catholic.
knows
Oh,
all this
okay. Well,
stuff, he knows all the stuff, he probably maybe could, but his heart was never really in it. So when he really managed to get out, one of them was like the high-powered litigator, defense litigator, whatever, like
okay.
that totally burned out
Oh yeah.
and was so happy when NBC said, "Hey, you want to make your blog our blog?" He's like, "Wait a minute, you'll pay me?"
Yeah,
Um,
there's a surprising number though. Like I went through and was trying to interview most of the folks that I knew that were attorneys and had, done comics work in some capacity, so like I Emily
Charles
Whitten,
Soule.
I haven't
Yeah,
interviewed Charles Soule, but he's
I
one of
haven't
them.
yet either, but I think
Um,
he's still practicing, but I'm not 100% certain
Mark
on that one.
Guggenheim, an
That's
attorney.
right.
Um, yeah, Emily Whitten, I think the book that she wrote, The Underfoot, I think her co-creator on it is also an attorney. Um,
Isn't
Marjorie Liu,
I was about to say, isn't Marjorie
yeah,
Liu an attorney?
Marjorie Liu's an attorney. Yeah. Oh, David Boer. David Boer
Yeah,
was an
that's right.
attorney. Yeah. The burnout attorney to comics pipeline.
Had no idea. I feel like I'm learning a lot.
Well, I mean, Have you followed the Supreme Court lately?
A little bit, a little bit. They're up to some things. They're making the news. Yeah.
There are that, like, I think one of the reasons why there is such a stereotype of the soulless attorney is that A, they certainly do exist, and B, the majority of attorneys who don't fall into that category have a really high burnout rate.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you're wrong. But yeah, out of. I was just having lunch with my three like closest friends from law school, and I'm the one that they refer to as the quote unquote real attorney because I like go to court and stuff. But one is a corporate attorney for like NBC or
Okay.
Comcast, whatever they're calling themselves now. One's a tax attorney in house. One does like Medicaid compliance for an insurance company. I'm the only one that like goes to, court and does that type of stuff. But um yeah, there is a high burnout rate. Um,
Yeah.
it's just this I mean, it's not like there are many jobs that aren't stressful in some capacity, but yeah, it's a stressful job.
Well,
And
I mean, but I think
comics is a lot of
particularly,
fun. I like
yeah.
comics
Well,
better.
comics can be really stressful too, but
Yeah.
I think when it comes to the law, people who got into it because of some sort of passion so rarely can either make money or succeed at the driving part of their passion, and or they're like, oh, I'm broke and occasionally managing to take care of the little guy, and the guy that I hated in law school makes 10 times what I do,
Yeah.
screwing over the little guy.
Yeah. I mean, I also know a lot of people that I've never worked for a big firm. I've always worked for a small firm doing some type of like I started out doing
Right.
plaintiff's work and criminal defense in Philly, and then I went to Delaware and I was doing trust and estate litigation, and now I'm back
In
doing plaintiff's
Delaware,
work.
really?
Yeah, I'm in
Isn't
Delaware
that
now.
where all the trusts in?
Yeah, it was good work for a number of years, and then I another firm asked me to join them and do plaintiff's work again. They were looking for somebody, and I loved
Right.
plaintiff's work. I loved doing that. I didn't like criminal defense. I burned out pretty quick doing criminal defense.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me. But I knew a couple of people who right out of law school, they got big firm jobs and they were
Hmm.
making a lot more money than I was. But I remember one of them, they needed to be at the office and bill all the time. Like to the point where they told the partner in charge that like I haven't been home to go grocery shopping, and they hired somebody to it was like before
To
Instacart.
grocery
They
shop for them. Hmm.
they hired somebody to
Hmm.
grocery shop for
I
them, and
believe it.
they were complaining to me. They were just like, they don't get it. Like I just want to be out of the office to do my own
No,
grocery shopping.
I
And they
remember.
they they did not last there much longer
Uh, uh,
because not because of them, like they were
right.
just like, I don't want to live like this.
Yeah, no, a friend of mine got a job like that out of law school, and I remember, like, she had the swank Gold Coast apartment in Chicago that she insisted that her best friend, who was a public school teacher, move in with her. And best friend's like, I can't afford. She's like, no, you're not paying rent. You're so I don't live alone, and somebody actually gets to appreciate this apartment. You'll see me maybe twice a week while you're awake. But I like this apartment, and I'm paying for this apartment. Somebody should live in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh.
I talked to her once. She was on a business trip in Boston. She'd been there for 6 days and hadn't left the hotel
Yeah. I couldn't do that. I
because
never
the
wanted
hotel
to
had
live like
conference
that.
rooms. So
Yeah.
so all of the meetings were in the hotel.
Oof.
The
I,
client.
I had another friend who was working for a big firm in Philly, and was so stressed out that he was, you know how you've heard of people that sleepwalk, right? Like we're
Hmm.
all familiar with the concept of sleepwalk.
Yep.
He was so burnt out and we're so stressed out and so tired. He was like driving at night and he would wake up in his car in places not remembering how he got there.
Yeah, no, that's time to look at
Yeah.
your options.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's has moved on, is much happier now, and no longer driving at night and not remembering. But yeah,
I mean,
it is a
I have
stressful profession.
yeah, I have known a handful of people that have like gone into it knowing that they were going to go through 5 years of hell, but
Yeah.
also had that plan to essentially bank the money for that 5 years of hell and walk away to either their own firm that did whatever the hell they wanted
Yeah.
or away from the law entirely. But that
Yeah.
just takes a ridiculous discipline.
Yeah, I know people that have done the same thing. They were like out of law school. They're like, I'm going to get this job. I know it's going to suck for 7 years, but then I'm going to go in-house somewhere and it'll be less stressful. The
Right.
money won't be as good, but they'll have suffered for that 7 years. And I mean, if that's what you want to do, it's
I can't even
not
imagine
something
it.
not something
No.
I could have done, you
I
know?
mean, I might have been able to do it if I'd been able to navigate college to begin with, but I didn't know I was autistic then, so I was still believing that I was lazy and whatnot rather than, and that turned into shame
Right.
spirals and oof. But
Oh,
but then I worked senior care for 10 years. And like you work dementia care and you start to think a lot differently about right now.
yeah, I bet.
You know, for that matter, every like I don't smoke anymore, but like at the time I was never a heavy smoker, but it was every time somebody give me a hard time, I'm like, why? Well, you'll live like 10 years less. And I'm like, uh-huh. I spend all day around those 10 years. I don't know that I'm missing anything. You know, for that matter, there comes a certain point where being healthy is like a curse.
Well,
Nothing physically wrong
yeah.
with you,
Uh,
but
on the dementia ward, yeah, I bet. I can't imagine, you know. I live with
uh
my grandmother. She went through that, and you know, I've handled nursing home stuff, and
yeah.
it's awful.
I mean, like I enjoyed the work because I was good at making it less awful,
Yeah.
you know, but that's because I took that as my entire purpose. And look at, okay, nobody wants to be here. How can I make their day worthwhile? To them, not to like I would have fights with, you know, because that's the other thing. Like I did a lot of activity work and like every nursing home, oh, you got to make stuff so we can show off. And like most of these people didn't do arts and crafts when they were all with it. You really think they want to do arts and crafts now? Well, then you should play bingo. And it's like, again, like how many 50-year-olds do you know who play bingo? Why do you think they're suddenly into it when they're 75? You know, I would do things like reading aloud or finding good movies and watching them have conversations like, oh, this looks bad. They're just sitting in their chairs. Some of them are falling asleep. And it's like, do you really want somebody making you stay awake all day when you're old and tired?
Uh, yeah, I mean, you probably for some of them, like, you know, they didn't want to be in those types of activities. It's not like you
Right.
were abandoning them. Like
No,
you're trying to find a
no.
meaningful
And,
activity for
and
them,
I
you know?
totally went out of my way to figure out what people like. So if I mean, I
Yeah.
had one place that I worked where they did love bingo. So we played a lot of bingo. I had one place where I worked where there were a lot of people who liked doing a specific set of crafts. So we did a lot of them. You know, what I didn't do was go, oh, you must discover this thing that you like. your great joy for all of your life has been reading, and you can't see the book now, well, I'm going to read to you. I got really good at reading out loud. It's a good skill to have.
It is.
Not a lot of people can do it well.
Yeah, it is
Um,
a good skill to have.
yeah.
I agree.
Uh, but but I was going to wrap up a while ago and went down another rabbit hole, which is why I sometimes need the co-host that I don't have tonight to like shut me up. And you guys are just way too polite and smiling and laughing at me rather than
We're
go,
laughing, Tad. We're laughing with you.
okay.
I love a good tangent.
Okay. Okay.
Look,
Fair enough.
I'm in a great mood. I got to be
Okay.
on another podcast,
Somebody else's podcast.
somebody else's podcast with a really fun host. I got
Hey,
to
thank you.
see Amber and talk with Amber. I got to talk about Penny and the Yeti. And tomorrow's my birthday, so I'm in a great
Oh,
mood.
wow. Well,
Happy
happy
early
birthday.
birthday.
Mine's
Thank
coming up.
you.
Mine's coming up in a couple of weeks, so I
All
know
right.
about
Well,
that.
happy
Yeah.
early birthday to you
Thank
too.
you.
Yeah.
I I I
So,
I have two comics related birthday presents this year. The first is I decided to treat myself, and like every year we have a post World Series baseball and comics roundtable. This year we're doing an opening day baseball and comics roundtable because for the second time in Major League history, opening day and my birthday are the same day. So it's my birthday present to myself, particularly because this year my spring break and my wife's spring break don't line up. So I am home and she's at work.
Oh,
So lunch will be with my baseball and comics people. And
that's
somehow
awesome.
one of my favorite baseball writers is a massive comics fan and many of my favorite comics people are big baseball people. So like this is every November when we did the baseball and comics roundtable is one of my favorite things. So it was, but then I finally got the courage to put up for to do panels at C2E2 this year, and they approved four of them.
Oh,
So
that's fantastic. I mean, that's a
wow.
lot, but
27th through
that's fantastic.
I've got one on the 27th, two on the 28th, and one on the 29th. The one on the 29th is the one that I cannot believe they approved. I am both looking forward to it and scared shitless because it's called Cool People Talking About Comics, and the proposal was we're going to project some short comics and or scenes from comics, read them aloud and talk about them, and I'm going to get as many of the professionals as I know that I can convince to come up to be a part of it.
Right on.
I know that you
Yeah.
recommend like four or five people per panel. My intention is to blow that out of the water. I know we can't have more mics. We'll pass them around.
No, that's fantastic.
Well,
Oh,
I think they're actually into it because they scheduled it for just late enough on Sunday that I know that I'm going to sell it to people as like you want to get away from your table just a little bit earlier and then leave from the panel. I have the perfect the perfect
yeah.
opportunity for you
Yeah.
to call it a day at 2 o'clock on Sunday rather than four.
That's
um,
great.
all right, so I have two required questions that I ask of everybody. One has been a required question forever, and one is more recent. It's really this since we entered what we call season five, we just call it a new season on every anniversary. We're in our fifth year of doing this, so it's season five. So the first one is tell me something you love, preferably a comic, but we don't really have rules. Preferably
Okay.
storytelling, but again with the rules. But something that you love, but not enough people around you have experienced it, and you really would like them to, so you have more people to talk about it with.
Oh,
That's a good question.
that is a good question. I mean, I can definitely keep it comics related because I not like real people. When I say real people, like people in my life, not many of them read the same comics as me, except for my brother. So anything but Bobby's the only one I have to talk to comics about, other than folks online. Um, but some of the comics that one of I'll put it this way. One of the comics, it's a Maverick comic that loved, and it's going to get a sequel, which I was very excited about. And I've been trying to get my oldest, Charlotte, to read it because I
And
really think she'll love it and we can talk about it. But I'm going to forget the name of the artist and I feel terrible. But the writer was Jeremy Whitley and his
yeah, I was about to say,
Navigating with You.
I know what you're about to say because I just talked to Jeremy
Navigating with
about
You
his. I love that
is
book.
is
It's so good.
so good, so incredible. I loved it. I
The
think they
key is
translated it into
just put it,
Spanish.
yeah, just put a copy in her room. Don't tell her to read it. Just
I
like drop it
know.
in her room.
Every once in a while, I'll talk about a comic and she'll overhear me and then want to read it. And I love it when it happens, but it's like this weird thing that like I can't ever get too excited about it
Right.
because
Oh yeah.
she's 13 and then like she won't read it, but I did that with
Oh no.
Keezy Young's Hello Sunshine, which
Oh
maybe
yeah.
might be a little too old for 13, but I figured she'd be
Nah.
fine. Um
Not
but
most 13-year-olds.
yeah, I looked it up just so
Yeah, I was about
Cassio
to say Cassio
Ribeiro
Ribeiro.
and
You
Nikki
and I were
Fox
doing the same
Robot.
thing.
Yeah. But that is a comic that I just absolutely loved. So glad it's getting a sequel. Jeremy is a wonderful writer.
Oh,
The artwork in it is fantastic. Cassie's artwork in it, and yeah, uh, I really want to figure out a way to get Charlotte to read it because I just know she'll love it.
just
But she,
accidentally have copies in every room.
so yeah, that's
Again,
my
the
answer.
key is you can't. I mean, I used to sell music, and what I tell people is like, don't go, hey Jimmy, you got to listen to this. Just play it. Just
Yeah.
play it.
How about you, Amber? What's your thing that you love?
Oh gosh. So I think more people should be obsessed with Moomin the way that I'm obsessed with Moomin. I think everyone should read Tuve Jansson's comics. They should read her prose books. They should watch the Moomin cartoon and then talk to me about it because she is like the cartoonist of all time to me. And
Well, I've been looking at it and have not read it yet. So, like, I'm
you
gonna have to do
should.
this.
You should. They're
Dr-
so,
drawn and quarterly's been
they're
collecting
putting
them in
out,
nice editions.
yes, they're putting out like beautiful hardcover editions of the Moomin like prose novels too, and I'm waiting for them to get to Moomin Papa at Sea because that's my truly maybe my favorite book of all time. I think it's a book everyone should read. But yeah, their collections of the Moomin comics are so good. They're so beautiful. I have them all.
It just went on my list. You actually like you did what not a lot of people managed to do, which is give me something that I haven't read yet. The
Yeah.
even better is when you can manage to give me something that I haven't heard of. That's always the like a couple of returning guests. That's like their goal is like, okay, gotta come up with something awesome. Mark Russell actually like did it, but then tried to use the same one the next time he was on because he forgot that he'd done it.
That's great.
Um, so my newer required closing question, um, and like I've been doing this for a little less than 5 years now. I mean, obviously I've been around comics, but like I didn't know that the bar between being a fan and being part of the club was as simple as turning on record and then posting it to the internet. Um, but it turns out that it is. Um, so I still won't call myself a comics professional. I don't make enough money and my Patreons are family. Um, the $10 a month we pull in. But but in my time in the comics community, I feel like I've fallen into like the best possible Twilight Zone episode. Like the the number of surreal experiences that I have, the number of people who still feel like they should be just names in my favorite books rather than people that I trade texts about our families or during baseball games or whatever. Hell, I had two cars break down. Well, they didn't break down in the span of a few days. One of them went from the deer hit it and the insurance company was going to pay for it to, okay, we've looked a little bit more closely and no, we're going to um hate it when the word is there and then gone. Um, we're going to total it. And the car that we were planning to replace in the summer anyway, uh, we took to the mechanic to figure out how much longer we had before we like needed to, and he was like, No days. You have no days before you."
Oh, it's like,
So we went from like on Sunday, we had one car that we thought we'd have 7 or 8 more years out of once it got fixed from the deer having hit it, but we were expecting it to get fixed after the deer hit it. And one car that we knew we were replacing soon, but like not necessarily immediately soon, and um to no cars. And we both drive like 25 miles a day to work. So like no cars doesn't work. Um and because of somebody that I know because of this podcast, who has a brother who manages a VW dealership that their uncle owns, we got 2 cars in one afternoon at a payment that we could just barely pull off on 2 teachers' salaries. Never would have happened without comics. So like that's
oh, that's awesome.
like that
Wow.
that's the
Yeah.
realm of there's your gamut of various surreal
Yeah.
experiences. And here's what I want is tell me something totally surreal um that never would have happened if you hadn't been part of the comics community. That if you hadn't chosen to be a part of this. And again, it doesn't have to be as big as cars, and it doesn't have to be like it's completely okay if it's somebody came up to me and told me they loved my book or got my autograph, or I mean, because those are I remember the first time I got to sign a comic. It felt good, even though I wasn't asked to sign it. I was like,
Yeah.
I have writing in American Nature Presents. I'm here at C2E2 with a friend of mine. I am going to grab a copy from Greg and Fake, and I'm going to walk it over to my friend's table, sign it in front of him, and hand it to him.
I, do you want to go first, Amber? Do you have something?
Um, I guess like the somethings haven't really happened yet since this is my first foray into like professional comics. It does still.
So I should have asked more about your background. I forgot one of my other favorite questions, which is give me your comics biography. We'll have to do that next time. Um, did you get to start out with like the published paper cuts book, or have you been doing like the indie comic scene?
This is like my first like real thing. I've like drawn comics, but not really. I haven't really printed any or sold
You
them.
didn't even put them together at Kinko's and take them to the library con.
I made a couple comics when I was like in first grade, and my
Okay.
first grade teacher really entertained me and let me read them to the class. But since then, it's been
Love
it
that.
hasn't been a lot.
That's a pretty surreal experience, actually.
It's crazy. I'm having an event event at one of my favorite places in the world, the Eric Carle Museum of Picture Book
Oh,
Art, which
nice.
even like 3 years ago, if someone told me that that was going to happen and I was going to go sign books at the Carl, I would have been like, "That's a cruel joke to play on me.
Yeah.
That's a messed up
And
thing
it
to dangle in front of me."
for listeners, Amber will be there April 25th from 2 to 2:30. Story time with Amber Akin.
Come see
Uh,
me.
really quick, just because my listeners are all over the world. Not more than a few of them in any given place over all over the world, but they are all over the world.
Yeah.
Where is the Eric Carle Museum?
It is in Amherst, Massachusetts,
All
not
right.
very far from the Amherst College campus. So if
All
you're
right.
in the Western Mass area, come through and I'll sign a book for you, which is
Sign a
crazy.
book.
Uh, I've told this story on my uh on the Cryptid Creator Corner, but your listeners haven't heard it, so
I mean,
this
there
is
might be a couple of my listeners that listen to your show more than my show.
I don't know about that. Um, this is
I
my
mean,
surreal
I'm
sto
hoping that you'll wind up bringing in listeners.
Yeah, I hope so. But my surreal story that happened because of comics is, um, it's more funny than dramatic, but it's just one of my
Funny is
favorite
great.
comic related stories. My brother and I every year we go to. I'm the oldest of three, so my brother Bobby is
Me
about
too.
3 years younger than me. And Bobby and I, for the past several years, have been going to Baltimore Comic Con, and we absolutely
That's
love
one that
it.
I need to get to.
It's fantastic, and we went one year, and my brother is a huge Cullen Bunn fan. I mean, I love
Okay.
Cullen's. I love Cullen's work as well. He's such a prolific comic book writer. I love a lot. I love the stuff he writes. But he was going to be at Baltimore one year, and my brother was very excited to meet him and get a bunch of stuff signed. And that was like one of the great things about having the podcast and seeing creators and getting stuff signed and telling folks that we really care about the stuff that they write. And it's been an amazing experience. Like, you know, my my brother's also a big Greg Pak fan, so we got to meet Greg one year and all that stuff. But this year the goal was, out of all the stuff we had to get signed and the people we wanted to meet, my brother was just number one on his list, Cullen Bunn, Cullen Bunn. So when we got there, got in line, I said, I'm gonna go run to the bar across the street from the convention center and I'm gonna grab a beer. I asked my brother if he wanted and he'd come with me, and maybe we could get somebody to hold our place in line because we got there before it opened. He's like, "No, just go ahead, you go." I said, "Fine. I'm just going to go over and sit at the bar and grab a beer, and I'll be back." And I go and sit down at the bar, and I start talking to some of the people at the bar, and I recognized the person to my left. And I was saying something to the bartender. I said, "There's a lot of people around here. Some of them are dressed in costume. What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, it's the Baltimore Comic Con." I'm like, "Oh yeah, well that's what I'm here for." I didn't realize like people dressed up, and I said, my brother's really excited to meet one particular person." And the guy sitting to my left turns. He goes, "Oh, who's your? I'm going to the convention too. Who's your brother gonna really excited to meet?" And I said, "Cullen Bunn." And because I thought it was him, and he puts his hand out and he goes, "I'm Cullen Bunn." So I shook his hand and I talked to him and I took a selfie. I'm like, "I get a picture of us," and I'm like, "I'm a big fan of your work. My brother is too. We can't wait to see you once it gets started and gets in there." And so then I finish my beer, I pay, I go back over, I get in line. We get in when the doors open, we walk around, and then I said, "Oh, hey, why, let's go." I think the sign said Cullen Bunn was signing at like 1 o'clock at the Aftershock booth. And
The
we walk over.
aftershock booth.
Yeah, we walk over there and see him, and there's a table and like a ton of books, and as soon as we start to walk over, he stands up and he goes, "Jimmy, my friend." And the look, if I would have had a hidden camera to capture the look on my brother's face, that Cullen Bunn just acted like we were long lost buddies, It
S-
was well, it's one of the things that I hope I remember for a long time.
I
That's
uh
so cool.
I totally get that in part because of some of my actual friends where like I'll bump into somebody at the con and I'll be walking around with them and they won't like realize that because somehow even some of my older like if I bump into an old acquaintance that like was a comic shop, because I've worked at a couple of comic shops and you get to know people in comic shops. So I'll bump into somebody that just knows me as the guy at the counter at the comic shop from before I had the podcast, and we'll be walking around and I'll say like, "Hey Tom, how's it going?" And they'll talk back to me and like we'll keep walking and they'll be like, "That was Tom King." I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. You don't know this part of my life."
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Like the psychiatrist that I was talking about, he threw his own con um last year and I think is planning to again this year because now he owns two comic shops too. Because being a full-time psychologist and the dean of a school of psychology and having his group that does psychological presentations at various comic cons wasn't enough for him. He bought a couple of comic shops,
Wow. Yeah, that's
Modern Age Comics in Algonquin, Illinois.
oh, nice. Work to plug in. Nice.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean they're regulars on the show. Um,
Yeah, that's
but uh,
fantastic.
but so he was having me introduce him to people at C2E2, and for the most part, was going up to booths. So when I forgot to like make it clear who they were, he'd be able to look down at their comics and whatnot, and then make the pitch about I'm having my con here to raise money for these things and to help local creators, etc. Would you be interested? But somebody that we bumped into um just walking, away from his booth was Eddie Campbell, who I neglected to introduce as Eddie Campbell. I just said, "Oh, Edgar, meet my friend Eddie." Eddie, this is Edgar. He's doing, and we traded the stuff and talked for a few minutes, that sort of thing. And like as we're walking away, Edgar's like, I feel like I should know who that who is that? I'm like, that's Eddie Campbell. He's like, Eddie Campbell, Eddie Campbell. I'm like, oh, he drew from hell. He's like, Eddie Campbell. I'm like, oh
Uh,
yeah, I guess I've been seeing him at like Eddie's one of the guys that I talked to a few times at Cake before I was even because Eddie's in Chicago now. So like he does the indie con in Chicago as well as the bigger con and that sort of thing. So I knew him from just talking to him in his booth at the small con before I even had him on the podcast. So like it
oh
it,
wow.
it didn't like click to me. Oh, wait. This is Eddie Campbell. But yeah, that's the cool thing about comics. Everybody,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
is.
I've heard from people who had somebody tell me a story about losing an Eisner one year to Will Eisner. So he couldn't really
Can't
complain too
complain.
much.
Yeah, can't complain too
That also,
much.
that's like as cool as winning an
Yeah,
Eisner to
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the one time I was nominated for an Eisner, I lost, but Will Eisner won in my category that year.
Uh,
So yeah, no, I can start, I can swap stories for too long, so I won't let myself go down that rabbit hole, at least on the air. Let me wrap up. For Jimmy Gaspero, for Amber Akin, the book is Penny and the Yeti. The final order cutoff is right around the corner. I know you emailed it to me earlier and I neglected
yeah,
to pull
March
that up.
30th,
March 30th, and it will be in stores on
April 21st.
There you go. So you got about a month to tell your comic shop, I want Penny and the Yeti. Thankfully, it's a graphic novel, so it's less likely to get underprinted and be impossible to get if you don't forget remember to tell your comic shop. But really, really, because we'd like to see Jimmy and Amber make some actual money, tell your library that they should get Penny and the Yeti. And
Yes.
or convince your kids' teachers that they need class copies of Penny and the Yeti. This is where the real money is made in kids' comics.
And we love the
Yep.
library.
Yeah.
We love the library.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, for Jimmy Gaspero and Amber Akin, this has been 22 panels, and we will see you after the next page.